nowhere else I'd rather be than in this circle with this group. 1 game away, 4 quarters away.
It is no fluke.
I gotta get mad.
It is a fact.
Let's make that straight on reality.
The Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl.
Burrow back to throw. It is
Oh,
by
baby.
Higgins.
Unreal.
T. Higgins.
Oh, what a catch by Cobb. A stop to the Triple Crown winner.
One of the top-rated defenses, one of the greatest defensive players of all time.
It's Donald again.
Burrow fires. Chase reels it in.
They got an underdog. Big upset coming.
Worked so hard throughout the year to get to this point.
This is a game of heavyweights.
Finish it, let's finish it. Y'all know what time it is. Here we go, baby. Be relentless.
Y'all getting the show out of this, huh?
Let's just enjoy this.
Hello and welcome to the Around the NFL broadcast presented by Bose, the Super Bowl 56 special. And a special is exactly what it is. Dan Hans is here, Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. Guys, we have reached the end of the yellow brick road, and we have a gorgeous matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals. And Greggy, the game is special to me for many reasons, but one of them is Cincinnati, everybody knows. That's a great story. But the Rams, there's a lot of great storylines connected to that team as well.
That hype video's got me fired up. I just want to do like a Tom Brady, let's go. I mean, we're breaking out all the stuff. I just did it. I think the Rams have all these future Hall of Famers. How could that not be a great story? It's strange to me. Yes, the Bengals are kind of an underdog type of team, but the Rams have Von Miller, one of the greatest defensive players ever, Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive players ever, and oh, by the way, Cooper Kupp having one of the greatest receiver seasons of all time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Sean McVay and you're Les Snead, this was of any team in the league, the go-for-it window season, and it's paid off. I mean, they look like geniuses again, and I think that's huge for the Rams. But, I mean, the Bengals underdog narrative to me is so powerful. I just wonder if you were to look at the entire country, what percentage of people are not kind of rooting for this Bengals story? I would imagine it's a high percentage, Dan.
I believe it is. Also a high percentage of people wondering if Greg in his white jacket with the collar up is a bad guy from the Cobra Kai reboot.
Well, we were all sitting in a row, and we're all wearing the same navy, so, you know, I made an audible at the last second. Like that.
Mark feels underdressed.
I'm annoyed because we've been doing the show all season. It's like, oh, Mark's wearing like a sports coat that's too nerdy. It's like, now we have Greg looking like a young Republican or something in his like villainous tennis outfit, and I have to pull this off out of my closet at home. So.
Mark, Republicans buy sneakers too. Let's get into the game. Let's start with the quarterback position. This feels like a good spot to start because you got Joe Burrow, top of the world. This time last year, he was rehabbing a knee that was completely blown out. And there wasn't even, when we entered the season, was even going to be ready for week 1. There was a lot of talk, and I remember it on our podcast, which you could check out, by the way, 3 times a week. And now here he is, and he looks like he's ready to make that move to the elite of the elite in the NFL. But, Mark, Matthew Stafford is a great story as well, going back to my initial point. A guy that withered away in Detroit for years, putting up nice numbers, big numbers even, and now he gets to this new place, and he's really embraced this opportunity, especially during the playoffs.
Totally has. I mean, my mind goes to Burrow. It's like I just look at a player that it is incredible where he was a year ago to where he is now. And this game, to me, boils down to the Rams' pass rush against this line. You know, I know we all look at that Titans game and say Burrow was a hero to be sacked 9 times and still come out of it in unflappable fashion. But in the regular season, 5 teams amassed 5 sacks against the Bengals. They were 1-4 in those games. So what are you doing if you're the Rams? Are you going to stack Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Greg Gaines all on against that weak right side of the Bengals line? And maybe you force Joe Burrow into, some confusion, having to pass early, but against, disguised coverage. PFF graded Joe Burrow as the #1 quarterback in the league this season. So it's not just simply fooling a young quarterback. He's a little too savvy for that. That matchup to me, Greg, that is a huge matchup for me in this game.
And I don't know how much they need to disguise. I'm curious if the Bengals are going to be aggressive, whether they're going to do the 7-man protections like they did in the AFC Championship, very conservative. The Rams, on the other hand, like they have guys on their offense, especially Matthew Stafford, that can beat any coverage. I think the Bengals and the Rams are both going to play very soft defense. It'll almost be a competition of who can just give up short gains and long drives. But Matthew Stafford is the guy that can beat that defense. Throws like this to OBJ right after he almost had the interception last week. That's why you brought Matthew Stafford in. He can beat those coverages even when you have the two safeties back. He has the arm strength to get it done. This was the touchdown to Cup. Again, that's perfect coverage. Those are the types of coverages that the Bengals are going to play, and sometimes great offense just beats great defense, and that's what you have with Cup, with Stafford. To me, he's going to be the difference. He's going to make his mistakes, but if he starts making throws like this, which looks like a trick shot video, like I just don't know what the Bengals are really going to do.
Yeah, and what you saw, what saved Cincinnati's bacon in the AFC title game, and credit to the defense and Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, was their ability to pivot at halftime when they're getting lit up. And they said, we're going to drop everybody into coverage. We're going to do three-man rush. We're not going to try to go get the quarterback. We're going to try to close up all the windows, and it worked. Now, the problem here, I would say, for anybody that says they're just going to do that again and it will work, well, guess what? Sean McVay and his staff, there are no dummies there. And they know to be ready for that. And they've spent these 2 weeks ready for a scenario where there is a lot of guys drop back. So there is going to be an element of how do you combat that. Both these quarterbacks, Greg, are excellent against the blitz. They've been shredding teams all year. I imagine there's going to be a lot of dropping into coverage. Which quarterback takes advantage of it and doesn't make mistakes? Burrow, although he's been very clean in terms of turnovers for weeks now, he has put the ball up for grabs this season. And Stafford, even during this great playoff run, has put the ball up for grabs. Mr. Tart for San Francisco can attest to that.
Yeah, I think they'll both be patient. I think they'll both take the check down. It makes me wonder, like, which running game is going to end up stepping up, because I think both coaches, again, are going to invite the opposition to run as much as possible. I feel like Zach Taylor's going to take that bait. And if Joe Mixon can be the guy that he's been throughout much of his career, he could be a difference maker for Cincinnati. To me, he is one of the 2 or 3 best pure runners in the NFL. And I think that with those safeties and the linebackers for the Rams who struggle in coverage, they will ask Cincinnati to run like they did in the AFC Championship. And I think the Bengals will gladly say, okay, we will do it on first and second down.
I was interested in admission by Sean McVay to say in that Patriots Super Bowl, that 2-week window, that he got too much in his own head, that he almost outsmarted himself. I don't think that's going to happen again. This team has learned a lot from that experience and since. But when you talk about the running game, Greg, with the Bengals, I don't like this, what I've seen in the past couple of weeks where they continually run on first down over and over. I don't think that you can put Joe Burrow into obvious, overt, third and long passing scenarios, because that's when the pass rush versus this line puts him into a tough place. I think it's just like that's the matchup for me. And it's like Joe Mixon is a powerful guy, but this is coming down to Joe Burrow on those obvious passing days.
What does that mean, outsmarting yourself anyways? Like, I don't know.
I mean, I think we've all done that. Not you, Greg.
Not Greg.
I've never done it.
Not in his
faltered
little
on
white
any level.
thing.
I think the one thing with Burrow, and I agree, let Joe cook, and that's really worked for Cincinnati down the stretch. But this is a real issue, this defensive line of Los Angeles against what is a mediocre at best Cincinnati offensive line. Maybe you need to keep the run game in the mix. The other part of the running game on the other side, before we move on, Cam Akers has been pretty bad. And he came back from the Achilles, and it's been a great comeback story. But he's averaging, I think, 2.7 yards per carry. He had 2 critical fumbles that almost got him knocked out of the playoffs against Tampa Bay. Their running game has never been a strength this year, but the Akers coming back is certainly noble, but it hasn't helped them. Yeah,
they've played 2 really good run defenses, though, and I think they'll look at this Bengals team, and I think Stafford, and not like they're going to get overconfident, but I think they look at this matchup and they say, well, that's easier than the Bucs. That's easier than the 49ers, 2 teams that were brutal to run against that they couldn't really match the physicality. They'll look at the Bengals and think, we've got some mismatches up front.
All right, we're just getting started. And by the way, Mark, you kind of look like a cool dad hanging out by the docks.
I am a cool dad. I mean, I think I'm young, I'm edgy, or I'm going for that look. I'm not selling it entirely. But
young
is relative.
It's all relative.
That'll be fine.
All right, let's move on. We're heading to break, but don't touch that dial. Do people still have dials? What is television anyway? Coming up next, what's more likely? One of our favorite games. We break down the game from a different angle. Up next on the broadcast.
We're 1 game away.
Biggest days of our life right now finna go down today.
We're 4 quarters away from playing the game we dreamed about since we were little kids, man. I gotta get mad. Pressure's on them.
Another thriller. Let's go.
This is the moment. This is why you're here.
Don't let up. We ain't done. Let's go.
Come on me, dog.
We're not done. I swear we're not. Kittle.
Let's finish it. Let's finish it. Good job, team. We're starting the bowl, baby. We're in the Super Bowl. Give me some love, baby. We're going to the show, baby. We're going to the show. It's the Super Bowl. Oh, man. Got a little more work to do.
Welcome back to the broadcast presented by Bose. Again, look at all the great storylines, all those stars that we just saw. And then also seeing the Chiefs. Remember when the Chiefs were winning 21-3 in the AFC title game? That then had fun. One of the more shocking meltdowns in the history of the sport. That happened this playoff, too.
I feel like I'm still getting over that. Like
that
the Chiefs should be here, but I'm glad they're not. Sorry.
How does Cincinnati lose this game after that happened? I don't know.
That's why you can't count them out on any level here. Magical.
Very good call, Mark. Let's get to our next seg. Love this one. It's a classic. What's more likely, where we posit 2 different scenarios, and then the other 2 bros in the group, we say whether it's likely or whatever. You got it by now. Greg, get us going.
I'm going to go what's more likely. Aaron Donald puts a feather in his cap as one of the greatest players of all time with Super Bowl MVP, or Odell Beckham wins MVP and drives Mark crazy. Let's start with Mark because of that.
I have to go Odell Beckham because I don't see,
Wow.
I mean, in a world where Odell Beckham outshines Cooper Kupp, I mean, Cooper Kupp has just done this week after week after week. There seems to be this energy around Aaron Donald, the entire team saying they want to go win this game for him specifically. Huge legacy vibes for Aaron Donald. And I just think you're going to get a player who is one of the best players we've ever watched.
But you picked OBJ. You picked OBJ, finishing off the reclamation project and enjoying the whole offseason with Drake and that Super Bowl MVP.
No, I'm saying I picked Aaron Donald.
Clearly. Okay.
Clearly.
That makes sense.
By the way, it is Donald.
There's similar odds, by the way, in the desert. Similar.
The answer,
in the same ballpark.
Yeah, the answer is Donald. I know the odds are similar because the offensive player is more likely to get it than a defensive player. But Odell Beckham, he doesn't tend to put up big numbers at this stage of his career. I know he did in the NFC title game, and that's instructive here. But look at it from this perspective. If Beckham has a big game, an MVP-worthy game, that would be, 120 yards, a touchdown or 2. You know Cooper Kupp's going to eat, too. So then you're going to throw in Cooper Kupp and his 100 yards and a touchdown. And then you look at Matt Stafford. That means he's probably going to have 303 or 4 touchdowns. Then the QB gets it. So give it to Donald. See how I broke that down, Greggy?
I mean, that it makes sense. But how about OBJ picking on these shorter Bengals cornerbacks? It's like Eli Apple dog walking him. It's a low-scoring game. He gets 2 touchdowns in 140.
Make a play downfield.
Yeah.
Odell, do that. That's good. All right, here's another one. What's more likely? The great rookie kicker, Evan McPherson, finally misses a kick of any kind, field goal, extra point, or Cooper Kupp, the aforementioned, is held under 100 yards receiving. Now, let me just lay out the information. You know, in addition to having nearly 2,000 yards receiving in the regular season, Kupp is about 400 yards in 3 playoff games, and McPherson is 12 for 12 in the playoffs.
I'm going to go with Evan McPherson missing a kick. I've seen that in my mind. It's strange that you bring that up over and over this week, and I don't think it's going to be a pivotal one
Like repeatedly?
Like when you're bed, where were you when you were
various locales? Once in my bed, it did happen. I thought about it to some degree, but
awesome.
With Cooper Kupp, I mean, I think Mike Hilton has sort of said like it's a slot guy versus a slot guy, and Mike Hilton is coming with so much confidence. I think he's going to do a good job on Kupp. But what is a good job on Kupp? It's still to be 100 yards. I mean, who stopped him?
It is tough to double a guy in the slot, but Kupp will be inside, he'll be outside, and yet I think he's more likely to go under 100 yards than McPherson is to miss the kick, because you could make your entire game plan, and I know defenses have tried, basically around stopping Kupp. You can't stop McPherson. They've tried to stop McPherson. They've put him beyond 50. They've put him in bad weather. Those kicks are going through the upright. It's going to be perfect inside of SoFi. I just can't imagine this kid missing a kick at this point.
Wow, that was such a jinx. It's outrageous. And you know what? You're right. Zach Taylor has not made it easy on McPherson either with some of the play calling that's led to very long kicks, and he has made them all. How about the idea? Remember the old movie The Shining with Nicholson?
Yes, I do.
When he's in the dining room and he's in front of the typewriter and he's just like, Mark thinking about the kicker missing for the Bengals.
It's a little weird. Like, McPherson's been a great story, and you're just like dreaming about him having a horrible moment all week.
So, Greg, it's not a fantasy.
It's a vision.
It's not a fantasy. It's just something that's crept into my mind.
It's Nostradamus-like, and I respect it, Mark. How about you? What's more likely?
Well, for me, a little bit more of off the field scenario. It was a year ago that we lost our great friend and podcast partner Chris Wesseling, and this Bengals journey. He grew up in Cincinnati with a flock of brothers who were all Bengals fans, and they're all coming to this game. And we've been working with them all year on our podcast, and they've been known for infighting. So I'm just wondering if this group of brothers, is it going to be that we look down from where we are in the press box? Are they going to be more likely to be hugging? Or at some point, are these guys going to, you get 4 or 5 beers in if you're the Wesseling brothers. Is it going to be maybe, a lot of body slamming and punching and getting into fisticuffs with each other? They're a very volatile group.
What do you think, Greg?
How does this go?
I don't know if they physically fight. It's more of a verbal sparring, and I like to imagine a beautiful time. A great job by the NFL getting the Wesseling brothers in town. So I think it'll be hugs. I don't want to, spoil our picks later, but I do imagine them enjoying this moment, enjoying this game. They're Bengals fans. They know this shouldn't be happening. They're going to enjoy this moment no matter what happens. It's going to be hugs all around.
They're
not really a hugging crew, though.
They're not a hugging crew, but they are softies at heart, many of them, like Nick Wesseling, who looks almost exactly like Chris did in many ways. He is a guy that I feel like would twist the knife a little bit on a brother if he thought it could lead to some fun back and forth. It's good to have that guy. Nick's a good wild card of the group. And that's why I don't think this one's so easy. I think it ends with body slams. Body slams is what I believe.
I wish we had B-roll for this, just like they had taken video of the Wesselings fighting over the years.
That would be excellent. All right, that's what's more likely. Let's move on. In fact, let's move away from the game for a moment and head to Radio Row. It's a very busy week here in Los Angeles where we spoke to one of the great young stars in the league, Justin Herbert. We sit down with Herbert right after this on the broadcast.
Third and goal from the 5. Herbert has time, middle of the end zone, caught, touchdown! Chargers. 4 yards from Justin Herbert. Herbert to pass, looking left. Throw into the end zone, caught! Jared Cook.
Just over the head of Littleton. You can't throw it better than that.
10 yards from Justin Herbert. Herbert looks to Eckler, caught, touchdown! Chargers.
Herbert drops it beautifully into the bucket.
Herbert with his 3rd touchdown pass here tonight.
Welcome back to the Around the NFL broadcast presented by Bose. And now we are joined by a superstar, Mark Sessler on the couch. Oh, no.
Oh.
That's Justin Herbert next to Mark. And isn't it, Greg, how amazing is it to see Mark Sessler next to Justin Herbert, like in person?
It is amazing, the contrast and the similarities, just physically, emotionally. I enjoyed the chit-chat before we started.
I can tell Greg getting a little green, a little with envy because, Justin and I got very close talking before the segment here, and, I think that's a problem for Greg. So,
Justin, how does it feel?
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I'm glad to be here and excited to get after it.
Are you looking forward to more interviews where they just talk about you for 2 minutes before actually bringing you into the conversation?
I think it could get worse than that. So
no, you're going to be, you are a superstar quarterback. You're hot in demand here on Radio Row. There are going to be many worse interviews than this one. That's the only thing we could promise you, okay? But this one won't be too professional. We're going to do our best to make this work. And how are you feeling, Justin Herbert, as the Pro Bowl MVP? Let's start there.
It was a huge honor to be able to share the field with those competitors and the guys that you look up to in the NFL. But at the same time, it was a little bit of a slower game than I'm generally used to. Not a whole lot of tackling, but it was a fun experience.
Well, that was like going to be my follow-up question, because to be honest, we have our fun with the Pro Bowl on our show, and it's like, what does it feel like on the field? Is there just more talking than usual? Like, what is the speed difference? Like, is there any processing you need to do as a quarterback? Is it like, oh, that guy's always open, I'm just going to throw it to him immediately? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about pressures or blitzes or anything like that. They're not allowed to bring pressure. And so you're going to get certain coverages. You're going to run very simple plays. You put it in the week of the game. So it's pretty basic. But at the same time, the Pro Bowl, you don't want to get anyone hurt. Everyone's kind of done for the year. But it's just kind of have fun, go out there and, talk to the guys, hang out. But
what about the Chargers? Like, how would you classify the season? Obviously, you fell short of the playoffs, but it did feel like there were gains made. When the season ended short of the playoffs, what was the level of disappointment? I'm sure you guys thought, like, in the AFC, a wide open AFC, 4 seeds playing in the game, any team could have gone on a run, including the Chargers. What were your thoughts, big picture thoughts on the season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we made some big gains this season, some big steps forward. And, you go back to last year where we were at 3-9 at one point, and obviously things were tough last year. But for us to kind of bounce back, come together, and have a chance to go into the playoffs, and obviously it's tough that you don't make it. But that we believe in each other, we believe in the coaching staff, and this offseason is going to be big for us because we're going to have to get together and we're going to have to do some things differently. But there's a lot to look forward to for sure.
I mean, and after your rookie season, there's a coaching change. You have to learn a whole new offense. I'm sure that adds layers of work to your offseason. But now there's continuity, and I like Brandon Staley. We all kind of dug the experience of his first year. Like, how would you describe him, like,
especially
behind the scenes? And well, I just think he's part of a new wave of coaches, and just the aggressiveness on 4th down, and how you had total buy-in with that. Like, what is it like working with him behind the scenes as a person? Because he seems very intriguing to me.
He's been awesome. He's a guy that has emphasized, relationships, commitment, dedication, competitiveness, and we all want to play for him, and we respect him, and we have been aggressive, and as a quarterback, selfishly, I want to be out there for every 4th down. And so he believes in us, we believe in him. So it's been a lot of fun playing for him.
Did you think the NFL would be harder?
I think it's very, very difficult.
Like, I know it's extremely challenging, of course, but you come into the league, you're a young quarterback, and you are throwing for yards, you're throwing for touches. Just like physically, was there a moment early that you're like, oh, I thought this would be harder. I do fit in like right away.
I think I've got a moment where it goes the other way. I came in and I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was going to be really fast. But I remember I threw a screen pass, a normal, easy screen pass that got picked off one-handed by Melvin Ingram. And that's when I realized I'm not in Oregon anymore. And guys are here and they make plays. And so that was kind of the tough way to go about it.
And you got some incredible skill players yourself. Austin Eckler just walked by the set. He gave you a big smile. I wouldn't say it felt like you blew him off because you didn't see him.
Yeah.
But maybe when you see him privately later, you'd be like, hey, how come you didn't smile back at me? It's just something you guys are going to have to work out.
Shoot.
That's thorny.
Eckler, like, he's one of those guys that, like, you put the ball in his hands and he does something special. That has to be a nice feeling to have a weapon like that.
Oh, he makes my job so much easier. And that's our whole mission, is get those guys the ball. It's Mike Williams, Keenan Allen on the outside, and Austin Eckler and Jared Cook, and all these weapons that if I just get them the ball, something good will happen.
SoFi Stadium, like, I want to talk the vibe there, Justin, because there is much made about the fans, like, and how many fans are there for the Chargers or the Rams. Like, how much of a difference does this make? I do a show with Matt Money Smith, the voice of the Chargers, and he pushes back and say it's really not a big deal. Like, the players, they deal with it, they know what's coming. Like, is it something that bothers you? Is it something that you've gotten used to? Like, how do you think that could change as the Chargers become more entrenched in Los Angeles?
I actually saw a change this past season. I think if you started early on, we had a pretty good turnout. It's always a weird situation in Los Angeles, but we had our fans. They showed their support, and throughout the year, and if we keep winning games, if we keep doing things the right way, more and more will show up, and that's what comes with winning. And we have to get things figured out here, and I know that we will. But I saw a change, and those guys, they showed up, they gave their support, and it was awesome.
Did you have a favorite throw this year?
I think there were a couple. I think maybe the one that comes to mind would be against the Giants to Jalen Guyton down the middle. Was one of the longer throws I think I've made in my career, so it was fun to be a part of that one.
Do you remember there was a throw against the Cowboys that was called back by penalty? It was like early in the third quarter. to Mike Williams. Like, how annoyed were you that like an offensive lineman ruined that throw for you? Because that was one of the craziest throws I've ever seen in my life. It was like 60 yards
but you
on a
framed
dime.
the question.
What?
Are you annoyed about the offensive line? That's his teammate.
I'm just saying though, like, but you know the throw I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know the throw, and I thought it was great by Mike because that's a route that we gave him the option of whether to keep it straight or whether he flattens it, and he saw the safety, he ran a great route, and I had plenty of time because of the offensive lineman giving me enough time.
There you go. All right, before we let you go, it was so easy for you. Well, from our vantage point, to transition from college to pros. So you're a talented guy, but we have a instant answer game to end things with called 8 O'Clock Delight. Are you ready for this challenge?
I'll do my best.
There is no math. There was a joke earlier that there's going to be a lot of math. I promise you, I once got a 39 on a state-mandated math test. There will be no math in these questions. Quick answers. Here we go. Hit it, Ricky. Ladder match. Brandon Staley versus Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan. Who wins?
Brandon Staley.
Ice cream or sherbet?
Ice cream.
Herbert sherbet, though. That's a branding.
I'm not a fan of sherbet.
Is Joe Burrow's like swag, like out there swag, an issue for other young star QBs?
No.
Good answer. Were you popular in high school?
No.
Ever think about her? Everybody's got a her.
No.
All right, the ball's on your own 23.
Yeah.
Minus 23. That's football talk. You need to reach the end zone with a throw. Can you do it?
Yeah.
With the 7-step drop, you're now inside the 20?
No, I was going to throw it right at the line of scrimmage.
So you
can get
a couple steps up.
Yeah.
Okay.
77 yards. Whoa. Guns N' Roses versus Oasis.
Guns N' Roses.
Right answer.
Rams. Blech, whatever. Am I right?
No.
Fruit on pizza. Okay, ever?
Pineapple.
Did Oswald act alone?
No comment.
Ooh.
Beatles. Ooh, Mark. He's a conspiracy guy.
You made a fan.
Beatles or Nickelback?
Beatles.
Last movie you saw in the theater?
Spider-Man.
Omicron, more like, oh my God, I can't anymore with this. Not really a question. Lake house or beach house?
Lake house.
You can take a pill that allows you to live until 135 years old. Do you take it?
Of course.
Really? Because we're going to be old, like really old.
I was born in 1998, and so if I could live in 3 different centuries, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Great answer.
Well done. I'm from New York. I'm a Jets fan. My children are in Los Angeles. They're trying to decide between the Chargers and the Jets. We were at that Chiefs Thursday night game. You were awesome.
Thank you.
Why should my children choose the Chargers over the Jets?
I think the Chargers are a great team. We got a bunch of great guys on the team, and I love playing with them.
He did it.
Nailed it.
Justin Herbert.
Hometown.
A superstar in our midst. Thank you, good sir, and best of luck with all the other boring interviews you'll do today. The unprofessional one, that's the good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, buddy. Did we just become best friends with Justin Herbert? I think so. Coming up next, Greg put out a banger on the old .com. We break down Rosenthal's Super Bowl QB rankings up next. It's going to get nasty. You're going to want to be here. Welcome back to the broadcast presented by Bose. Now, we're not just podcasters. We're not just TV bozos. We also do a little writing on the old .com. Greggy wrote a banger. He ranked every quarterback who's ever appeared in a Super Bowl. Everybody. Put him in a ranking, and you know how this thing goes, Greg. How did you figure it out? How did you come to your list of however many guys?
It's the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and to qualify, you had to have made the Super Bowl. But it's about their career. You can't tell me that Trent Dilfer was a better quarterback than Dan Marino. So Dan Marino's near the top and Trent Dilfer's near the bottom, judging the breadth of their career.
All right. Well, that's easy to say Trent Dilfer versus Marino, but then it gets sloppy. But let's see the top of the rankings. And by the way, say this with love, Greg, because you did a great job curating it, did a ton of research, I could tell. But we're going to have some quibbles.
Yeah.
Quibi?
Yeah. Little.
All right, here's your top 7. We'll start right here. Mark, do you have any issues? I think Brady, clear number 1. Maybe gets dicey right away after that.
It does for me, and I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, Johnny Unitas just because he's from a long time ago isn't as valuable. I just struggle putting him at number 2 because I think the position has changed so much as well, and there's so much more on the plate of quarterbacks today in these high-octane offenses that someone like Joe Montana is my clear number 2.
Obviously, he's number 2.
I look at
Greg
your
got
list
that
and I
wrong.
drop Unitas down maybe to like 8 or 9 to be
It's like Johnny Unitas wasn't ever getting, benched for Steve Young in the middle of his career.
Stop it. You think that was his fault?
It was very tough to separate the top 3 or 4, but Unitas got a little bit of a tiebreaker here for the influence that he had on the game, and because in his era, he dominated the position in a way that none of the other guys really did in terms of MVPs, first team All-Pros. Like, he was so ahead of the pack of where quarterbacks were, and he's got the titles too, like Joe Montana, that he gets a little bit of it.
I mean, I hear you, and this isn't an anti-Unitas take, but since you brought it up, he was on the bench in Super Bowl III. Earl Morrow started over him when he was physically healthy to do so. How do I know that? Because Unitas played in that game too, but whatever. But here it hits at a bigger philosophical disconnect I have with this exercise, Greg, which, again, you put a lot of time and effort to. I don't want to, put a stick of dynamite and then go like this, but I must, because the conceit of it is that it's a Super Bowl quarterbacks, okay? But then it doesn't really have anything to do with the Super Bowl. It's just
you had to have made it. I'm not the editor. That's how they assigned it.
But it's your name on it, Rosenthal.
But you can't change the qualifications in the middle of the segment.
Here we go. Eli Manning, number 32. Now, within the realm of if it's just a quarterback ranking,
that's what it is.
That's fine. But since it's the Super Bowl, why not add more weight to the playoffs and the postseason runs? And the fact that Eli beat Brady and Belichick twice. I know his career maybe doesn't stack up with other contemporaries the way non-Giants fan or Giants fans see otherwise, but at the same time, 2 iconic playoff runs, that to me should get him in the top 25 if the exercise was done the way I would have wanted it rolled out. I'm not the editor.
I'm getting a bunch of, comments. First of all, help me out, social team. Don't just put it out there. Quarterback rankings in the Super Bowl. It's like, no, that's not what the assignment was. Everyone's talking Eli Manning. It's like, oh, we've never even heard of Len Dawson. Do some research. He's a first-team All-Pro, an MVP. Eli Manning has 1 season in his career where you could argue that he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in his career. And that wasn't even one of the years he was a Super Bowl winner. That was 2008. He maybe has 1, maybe 2 more where he could be a top 10 quarterback. He's not a guy who makes the Pro Bowl. So you're going up against the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Yeah, you didn't make the top 30. Sorry.
I mean, look, I have an annoyance with one aspect of this list too, and I get why it's kind of confusing for the reader because it does seem tilted towards Super Bowls, but it's not.
Flip it up.
Well, that's fine. You got time to work on that scenario. But Russell Wilson, in any way you want to judge this, down at number 25. You've got Patrick Mahomes below Terry Bradshaw. I mean, Greg. But let's go Russell Wilson down at 25.
Greg's been coming for Russell Wilson for a couple of years.
First of all, I'm glad you brought this one up.
Russell Wilson down at 25
You just said you were unhappy with Terry Bradshaw being over him? League MVP Terry Bradshaw? First team All-Pro Terry Bradshaw?
Over Patrick Mahomes. Anyone
because Patrick Mahomes in his 4 years has already accomplished something Russell Wilson probably won't ever, which is one of the most dominant runs in quarterback history. As great as Russell Wilson has, here's his best comparison as a pro, is Ben Roethlisberger. And he hasn't even had the amount of top 5 quarterback seasons that Ben Roethlisberger has had. Made a couple Super Bowls, won one, I wouldn't say he's along for the ride, but he also wasn't the reason they won that Super Bowl. He's a great quarterback. I mean, I'm putting him behind guys who won MVPs, who got votes for MVPs, who were first-team All-Pros. Russell Wilson's never in that top 3 mix.
Let's try to keep our voices down. We don't want to be that show. But how could you have No, there is once again, there's a little.
Bradshaw's underrated.
There's a disconnect, dude. That you have Bradshaw, who's known for being a Super Bowl winner. He's got 4, but he was never statistically a dominant player.
See, this is why I'm glad you brought this up. Because going through this exercise, I had to look through things, and I was surprised. Terry Bradshaw led the league in yards per attempt multiple times. His career, after they won the first couple Super Bowls, was dominant statistically in a way that a lot of those quarterbacks behind him were not, including Russell Wilson.
I can't ding you too hard because that was before our time watching football. So you look at yards per attempt. I trust the Rosenthal test really more than anything.
All-Pros, all
90s and beyond. I guess neither of us could really talk on that. We need to get an old-timer in
It is unrewarding to argue with Greg about anything. anything, and in this list is specifically high on
You guys just don't like arguing.
There's this finite result, and it's just simply Greg's opinion. And it's
that's how arguing works.
Well, no, it's not. No,
everybody calm down.
Simply,
I told you.
By the way, we're all in the same room, and Greg gets so heated up that he actually starts turning his head to look at me, shout at me during this.
These guys are going to duke it out, and it's just going to be a solo show when we get back.
Well, that's what you want, anyways.
From this break in time. So you got Cecil fired up. I like that. Coming up next, yes, the Super Bowl is the show right now in the NFL, but there's a lot going on around the league in the past week. This is around the NFL, after all. We will hit it up next.
League MVP Terry Bradshaw. Where's that for us? Top 5 in yards per attempt. 5 times.
5,000 years ago.
Well, welcome back to the Around the NFL broadcast presented by Bose. We've got things calmed down after Greg's heat-seeking NFL.com article. Mark, how are you, by the way?
I mean, I'm just,
You're kind of hissing at everybody at the end there.
I'm
right.
fine.
You would not like Thanksgiving dinner at the Rosenthal house if you don't like, mixing it up, getting your elbows dirty.
I'll mix it up with you anytime you wish. I'll choose the
I shouldn't have
format.
said anything. Let's hit the news. What's going on around the NFL? And we'll start with some head coach. They're all filled now. Even if it's not official in some places, Minnesota is what I'm referring to. All the posts, 9 gigs are filled, and we'll start with the Saints, who make an easy move, I guess you could say, after Sean Payton resigns. They want to keep some continuity. So Dennis Allen, who's been there forever, is their DC. He's a former head coach himself. They promote him. Greg, this is a good spot for Allen and getting another shot at this. But also, it does feel like a time of transition for the Saints, so nothing is guaranteed.
They're trying to minimize the transition, though. I think it makes sense. It's what Sean Payton wanted. He openly said he thought Dennis Allen should be the coach. Dennis Allen's been one of the very best defensive coordinators in the league last 3 or 4 years. They're a defense-first type of team. I just wonder what kind of Saints team we're going to see next year. They're $75 million over the cap. They've got some key free agents like Teron Armstead, Marcus Williams. Is almost an unwinnable situation? We'll see, depending on which quarterback they get.
And when people get annoyed about quote-unquote retreads at head coach, I don't think that's even a fair word, Dennis Allen will be somebody that you might say, well, he went 8-28 in 2.25 years in his first chance at this. Why does he get a second shot at this? But you know what? Maybe the circumstances weren't good for the Raiders. Maybe they'll be better for the Saints. Another big name, Mike McDaniel, who has risen up the ranks and is a guy of high esteem across the NFL. He had been the offensive coordinator most recently with the 49ers, hired by the Miami Dolphins as their head coach. McDaniel, Mark, has never called plays, but he is widely regarded as an offensive genius.
Well, and he will call plays for the Dolphins. I just think this is if you look at the NFL in general, I mean, coaches look, sound, feel different than they did in ages of old. And I love this because I think this is a super brainiac guy coming from the Shanahan tree. People inside the Niners organization, Dan and I once went to a party with some Niners people, and they were raving about him before he was a household name.
Wow.
You walk into choppy waters.
There.
Well, you walk into choppy waters in Miami. There's obviously some stuff going on there that's a little bit troubling, obviously. But I think this is a guy that I think is going to be great by Tua, great for that offense in general. They got to fix that offensive line, but it's a very promising hire, very intriguing.
I think you just like him because he looks like a guy you would hang out with there, Mark.
Well, he looks fairly like you with glasses on.
That's fair. I go for Andrew Hawkins, who I do game debut with, said he is the best coach he's ever had. And he said that 3 or 4 years ago, that there was the single smartest, best coach he ever had, and that speaks a volume.
And yet, for a guy who's so smart, I don't know if he's going to the right team, given everything that's surrounding the Dolphins right now. It feels like a risky move for a guy that could have his choice right now or in the near future, but there's only 32 chairs, and I'm sure he weighed everything. Let's move on to the Houston Texans. They said goodbye to David Culley. They welcome in, speaking of retreads, Lovie Smith, who was once upon a time a thriving head coach of the Bears, but that was a while ago. And he is now, after being the defensive coordinator in Houston, he gets the job. Another vibe here, Greg, of transition. Is this a long-term home for Lovie Smith? Will he get the chance to build a winner?
I mean, you would hope so. After you hire David Culley, don't really give him a chance. Then you run a search that doesn't include Lovie Smith as one of the top candidates for a month plus. You announce 3 finalists. Lovie Smith's not one of them. There are reports that Josh McCown is close to getting the job. Then Brian Flores sues the league for racial discrimination in their hiring practices. Suddenly McCown's out. They hire Lovie Smith. I think Lovie Smith actually could be a good coach for them. He's done better as a head coach than people realize. He did a better job with this Texans defense than people realize, but it feels like this wasn't the plan and that the process to get here was messy, and that's been the case with a lot of Texans moves lately.
I'm with you, muddled, and I mean, just to me, I think they wanted to hire Josh McCown and had to go do this as an option B. I mean, it's nice for Lovie Smith. I actually also love the look with the beard. That's fantastic. This is Jack Easterby's team on some level, and it's his third head coach. It's just as many GMs. There seems to be no clear direction, and you just feel like it's Lovie Smith being set up to be the scapegoat if things go wrong next year. I don't like that look.
And by the way, we just talked about the Dolphins. We just talked about the Texans. Looming over everything, Deshaun Watson. How does he figure into the future in the NFL? If he has a future in the NFL, that is still very much up for debate. Finally, Doug Peterson. Speaking of retreads, he gets another shot. The former Super Bowl champion with the Eagles lands in Jacksonville. And Mark, on Greg's point of like a strange process, Peterson was in like a month ago. They went in another direction, it seemed like. It didn't work out, and then they circled back and got their guy. It seems like a nice hire, but also a strange route to get there.
Yeah, you're right. I think with Peterson, just that final note in Philly was so ugly that we forget about how aggressive he was as a coach. I mean, they led the league in fourth down attempts before that was the thing to do necessarily right now. And I think this is a great situation for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this is a quarterback-centric hire. That's where your organization begins. And Peterson, I mean, prior to have the total meltdown in Philly, did a lot of good things. And I think it helps him to not be dealing with AM sports talk radio in Philly nonstop. You're down in Jacksonville, a little bit more patience with that media circus down there. I like it.
All right. I like it. The meltdown wasn't all on Doug. There's a lot of things going on.
No, but I mean, it got hyper ugly, right?
Yes, it did. All right. We move on. We say goodbye. But before that, I mean, we can't say goodbye without sharing our game picks for Super Bowl 56. I want exact scores, guys. I want MVPs. Let's get crazy. Let's blow this thing out. Up next on the broadcast.
I want a sequel to Doug Peterson's book. That's what I want.
What was it called again?
It's Still Fearless.
Oh, there it is. Beautiful SoFi Stadium. Actually, that's us to the left in that building, the little white building. It's not so little. Right across the sidewalk, Super Bowl 56 coming up Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, NBC. Now it's time for Listen Up, presented by Bose. Let's pick the game. And listen, the Bengals, what an amazing story. Such an amazing story that I picked against them in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. And I'll do it one more time.
No.
I just think the Rams are the better team. And by the way, the Wessling Lakeisha stuff, guess what? Lakeisha says she's fine with whatever happens. I'm sure Wes would be too. How about you, Greg?
I am rooting for the Bengals, and I am picking the Bengals 23-21. It's just a football game. And I think you look at the matchups, and certain ones certainly give the Rams an advantage, but it's just a football game. It's just one game, and I think the Bengals are going to treat this like just a football game. They've got defensive ends who can get pressure on Matthew Stafford. They've got a quarterback that doesn't flinch, and I think the Rams, when they get ahead in the fourth quarter, get a little tight, and the Bengals are ready. They're a second-half team, and they win it on McPherson's leg. He's not missing any kicks.
The whole just a football team.
It's no different than week 2.
It's a football game.
But I'm saying, like, the whole Bengals run has been kind of symbolic of it's more than football. There's something else cooking here. And you're saying remove all that.
I'm saying the moment won't be too big for them. For the Rams, we've seen it be a little too big.
All right, Marky, how about you? Break the tiebreaker.
I opened the show by saying I had visions of Evan McPherson missing a field goal in this game. But he's also going to do something very special. I've got the Bengals winning in overtime, 19-16.
Wow.
A lower scoring game than I thought it would have been a week ago. But I've convinced myself this is going to happen. This Bengals run is one of the more special things we've ever worked together during to see or seen as a football fan in my entire life. And I can't imagine it not capping off with a magical final conclusion for the Wessling brothers and everyone that loves this team, guys.
Oh, I like it. I like that we all have it within 4 points. This is going to be a great football game. No jinxes are possible. That was Listen Up, presented by Bose, and that is the Around the NFL broadcast. Everybody enjoy the football. We'll be back in a little bit. You'll find us. Check your local listings. But until then, check out the Around the NFL podcast, where we will recap this game on Sunday night, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy all the football.